Haya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. My new edition of My Memories of Prabhupada, I started off with a shocking line. One's shocking in the sense that it's supposed to make the devotees think, how could that be possible? I open it up with, I first met Srila Prabhupada in Ireland. And devotees saying, well, wait a minute, Prabhupada, he didn't go to Ireland, and then in the form of his book. Actually, I first saw Srila Prabhupada in his form of his books. I must have been about 15 or 16 years old. When my best friend at school, he showed me some books of Prabhupada and said, hey, I met some Krishna devotees in London, because I live just outside London. And he showed me these books. He was very eager to show them to me. And my response was, I know about these Indian swamis. They're all cheaters. I don't want to see the books. So I got battered around a bit more by Maya. I actually, although I had been a big reader in my childhood and youth, at one point I just got so fed up of reading all these people who I didn't like to read. I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if you want to put it in here, but I had not read any of this Hermann Hesse books, but I read Siddharth. That was the last book by a mundane author I read, although I've read some since I read Prabhupada's books. But anyway, I was reading that, and it kind of leads up to a finale. It's a spiritual search, and then it comes at the end that then he realized he was Agni and he was Indra, and I was just so disgusted. I was on a boat sailing from Wales to Ireland, and I was sitting on the deck. It was in the middle of this Irish Sea. I was so disgusted. Oh no, no proper conclusion, just all this, I didn't know the word at the time, impersonal mush. I was so disgusted, I just threw it in the sea. And I thought, I'm not going to read any more books. Then after I thought, okay, from now on I'll only read if there's some scripture, something which is really authorized. So I had the New Testament and a copy of the Quran, but somehow I didn't get that much out of them. Then I saw in the house I was staying in Ireland, a copy of Krishna book, and it said it's from the ancient Srimad Bhagavatam, so I realized that's a scripture. And the person who got the book, you know, people, they read the book and they fold the page. On the page they stop reading on. So I opened the book and it was folded on page 1. So I asked, could I read it? He said, sure, yeah. So I read it. And some years before, I'd been in a room where the TV was on. I was reading a book. I wasn't watching TV, but something came out. It must have been in '73, because it said about the new Krishna temple. And I remember the name of the village. Somehow or other I remember the name of the village. I don't know how. Lechmore Heath. And I didn't take much notice of it, but somehow it stuck in my mind that there's a Krishna... I wasn't even watching it, but there was a Krishna temple in Lechmore Heath. I said it was near to Watford, so that's where my father's... So anyway, I read this book, and I didn't understand much, but in the book it said, Prabhupada said, you should chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I started to do that a little bit every day. And I was just reading one chapter a day. I loved the book, but I had this idea, I didn't want to finish the end of the book. So I was just reading one chapter a day. Then I finished it and I thought, okay, well, it's good, sounds good. And I know they have a center near Watford, which is near my father's house. So what do I do next? I thought, well, I don't want to go, because I don't believe that there can be actually any people who are really serious about God or spiritual life. But then I thought, yeah, I should go, because I should go and see. So I left and I went to England. I went to my father's house. I found the phone number in the phone book. I phoned up and said, can I come over? And they said, now this is not about Prabhupada, but anyway, I'm just, not directly, but actually it's all about Prabhupada.
So what in the book made you keep reading it? Because you were kind of like put off by spiritual things, right?
No, well, this is scripture.
You accepted.
I accepted
so
scripture. That there's, I didn't want individual people's speculations, but this was scripture, and I read it. And Krishna book, there's a lot of philosophy in it, but I couldn't understand much about what it was. But I read it, and I understood this is scripture, and all reincarnation is there. I understood that must be a fact, because there must be God, and this idea that you have one chance and then it's all finished doesn't make any sense. I'd been in the temple for maybe about 3 or 4 months, and Prabhupada was coming. And you know what it was like in those days. I mean, Prabhupada was like everything. Prabhupada, all the time Prabhupada. Cassettes playing, lectures, kirtans, really absorbed in Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that. So we went to Heathrow to meet Prabhupada, and somehow or other, I was with a group, we went to the wrong terminal. So we missed Prabhupada, actually. So it was like all this excitement, we're going to see Prabhupada. And then by the time we got back to Bhaktivedanta Mana, we were told that Prabhupada's sick and he's not coming down till tomorrow. So is it like another day to meet Prabhupada? And then I was waiting at the bottom of the stairs with, the whole manor was packed. There were devotees from all over Britain, all over Europe. I was waiting at the bottom of the stairs to see Prabhupada. First time to see Prabhupada. And waiting, the temple was packed, I was outside, and then Prabhupada came down the stairs. And he was, I believe, you know how memories, they may cheat you, but as far as I remember, Harikesh was there, Brahmananda was there. There were big-bodied American devotees, and Prabhupada was there. And like many other devotees, my first experience was how small is Prabhupada, because he speaks so big. What he speaks it conquers the whole world, and absolutely fearless and totally authoritative. And my first impression of Prabhupada, which just lasted for a moment, was how physically small he is. But he was definitely the boss. He was walking down the stairs, and Brahmananda, Harikesh, other big-bodied devotees who, in their own right, they were the boss also, when they were there with others. But with Prabhupada, they were extremely reverential. And that was the moment. Prabhupada was very grave, and everyone was extremely grave. The whole temple. Usually we hear, like when Prabhupada's coming, it's very blissful, but my memory was it was so grave, it was almost tense. And in retrospect, I'd never been in such a grave situation. I mean, I'd been a Catholic altar boy at many funerals, and there's some formal gravity, but once the ceremony's over, everyone's laughing and joking and this and that. But it was really grave, and with a lot of awe for Prabhupada. And in retrospect also, I didn't think it at the time, but in retrospect, we were all from a hippie background, and we didn't follow any, I mean, that was the whole thing, right? You don't follow any authority. But everyone respected Prabhupada so much, and it wasn't out of, of course, it wasn't out of physical power, but he commanded so much respect. And another thing is, everyone was very grave, but Prabhupada was more grave than everyone else put together. And that's maybe why everyone else was so grave and in the presence of Prabhupada. I mean, he wasn't deliberately trying to do that, but just naturally, just holding the whole. What is that? Tomara hridaya shada govinda vishram. Krishna's in his heart, and that, Prabhupada was aware also. I mean, I'm just, you could say, not exactly imagining, but yeah, Prabhupada, he was aware that he was the person who was giving Krishna to the world. And what a grave responsibility that is, and representing all the acharyas. Prabhupada was very aware of that, and we also in our own way were aware of that. And why I say Prabhupada's gravity was more than that of anyone else was because Prabhupada's realization was more than all of ours put together. Whatever we had was coming from him. So yeah, and so naturally when Prabhupada came into vision, everyone bowed down. They started bowing down before I saw Prabhupada because he was coming down the stairs and some people could see him before I could. But I decided, I wasn't against bowing down, but I'm just going to see Prabhupada for a moment and bow down. I'm going to have a good look. Bodily platform, thinking that you can see the spiritual master with your eyes. So yeah, I looked, and then I was up for half a second more than anyone else before I knew I have to bow down. So I bowed down. And then by the time I got up, Prabhupada was just entering the temple room. And a devotee was taking off Prabhupada's slippers, which was, when you're new in the movement, there's so many things which are new. I hadn't seen this one before. And I was surprised by that, how the devotee is taking off the slipper. But I took it, it's something new, something I have to learn. It's quite different from the culture we were raised in, but such reverence and such respect. And again, Prabhupada, he didn't demand that, but devotees, they just, because of that genuine connection with them, they automatically picked up that culture. It's not like we thought now we have to be Hindus and we have to follow some Hindu culture or something like that, but just what is the original Hindu culture, what they call Hindu culture, is the culture of the spiritual world where all these things come naturally. So it's natural to serve a great personality in the most humble of ways. And devotees were doing that for Prabhupada, and they could not fail to do so by Prabhupada's grace, because he'd infused them with Krishna consciousness. So it's all part of being Krishna conscious, is to Mahat Seva, to serve the great persons. So Prabhupada entered the temple room, and I eventually squeezed in there. It was already full and got fuller and fuller and fuller. And kirtan was going on in the temple room. When Srila Prabhupada came in, actually the kirtan stopped because everyone bowed down. And then they got up and Govindam prayers, the recording of Jamuna Devi. And again, the devotees got up and the kirtan didn't begin again for a little time. It may not have been, you know how it is in these times, that a short time may seem like a long time. When something of that import is going on, then a long time can seem like a short time, and a short time can seem like a long time. Time dilates. So, again, devotees got up, and it's a lot, very, very, almost tense, almost tense. Prabhupada wasn't displeased or any such thing, but devotees were in such awe of him. That's my impression. Someone else might have been there and had a different impression. Maybe because I was awed myself. And it's Atmavan Manyate Jagat. You think that everyone else is like you, but that was my impression. Well, here's something. That first time I had darshan of Srila Prabhupada, along with so many other devotees, I'm not a devotee, but with so many devotees. Srila Prabhupada came in from America, I believe it was, and then he was sick or we should better say he was exhibiting the pastime of sickness. Pure devotees, not sick. And then he came down the next morning and gave a class, and it was a very philosophical class. And there was, well, that was it, and then he left and went to Bombay. There wasn't, like, you might expect there's some interaction with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is maybe joking a bit with him. The whole visit was, Prabhupada came out in public briefly, spoke a class, it was very grave, and the whole atmosphere was very grave like that.
What did you take from that? Because you were expecting more interaction with the devotees?
No, actually a lot of what I'm saying, or realizations, are in retrospect. At the time, I really feel that my, whatever understanding or appreciation of Prabhupada I had, it really increased actually after Prabhupada left. I think as we go on chanting and trying to serve, that our realizations will be deep. Srila Prabhupada came again in the summer of 1976 for about 5 days to England. For me it was the second time of darshan of Prabhupada. And during that time he gave at least two public darshans. One was the famous interview with the London Broadcasting Corporation with Mike Robinson, in which Srila Prabhupada afterward he said this should be transcribed and published, because he said 90% or 95% of our philosophy is in there, and that appears in the Science of Self-Realization. Mike Robinson was a professional journalist, London Broadcasting Corporation, some small radio company with a big name. But he was very respectful to Prabhupada, which we, at least myself, I didn't expect so much, because we were out on the streets daily distributing Prabhupada's books, and we didn't expect people to be very respectful towards Krishna or Krishna consciousness. But this man was very respectful, and Prabhupada offered twice that you can sit on a chair, but he said he accepted to sit on the floor, like all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, so the room was full of devotees. I was present there also. And that interview went on. Prabhupada, he took a respectful role, this Mike Robinson, and Prabhupada treated him, or the way he spoke to him, in a very authoritative way, almost like an inquiring disciple. Seemed to me like that. Prabhupada is very definitely the authority who's speaking spiritual knowledge. And Mike Robinson was inquiring in that. He wasn't inquiring like a superficial reporter just trying to get a story, but he was actually, you can see from the questions, he was asking when the nature of the soul, and then when Prabhupada quoted Najayate Mriyate Vakadachin, and the rest of the verse. Then Mike Robinson asked about the scriptures, and Prabhupada explained about the scriptures. That did strike me. I was somewhat surprised that Prabhupada spoke in that way. Srila Prabhupada knew, or he was the dispenser of the truth of spiritual knowledge, and he was. I can't say exactly what Prabhupada was thinking, or I wouldn't presume to say that, but he definitely took the role of a spiritual teacher, that this jiva is sitting before me and he's inquiring, and I'm going to tell him. He didn't try to entertain the person or to it wasn't just being nice to him, but here's a person who's inquiring, and he gave it and took the position of a teacher. During that interview, or while it was being set up, I think before Mike Robinson came in, Prabhupada was talking to Mukunda Prabhu at that time. And Mukunda Prabhu very soft-spoken, and but when I saw him interacting with Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was speaking to him, and obviously Prabhupada knew Mukunda and trusted him, even slightly chastised him a little bit, or expressed a little annoyance. I could understand at that point that actually Mukunda was a very senior devotee with a very intimate personal relationship with Prabhupada. I didn't know. He wasn't pushing himself forward or any such thing. So, and maybe no one had ever told me, because maybe, I don't know, but I learned at that point that Prabhupada knew him and trusted him and was very intimate with him. Mayapur 1976, the festival. I was one of the majority, the rank and file devotees, so I just saw Srila Prabhupada in the classes, saw and heard. That was our main duty, to hear Srila Prabhupada. Now, in one class at the beginning, Srila Prabhupada, it seemed the devotees were a bit hesitant to chant the verses. But Prabhupada encouraged him, he should chant. He wanted the devotees to chant the verses, not just one or two times. He wanted several devotees to chant the verses. So I like that, because I like to chant the verses. So it's something Prabhupada encouraged us to do. I like to learn verses. Now, during the class, Srila Prabhupada said, he thanked all you American and European boys and girls for taking so much trouble to come here, which touched me. Prabhupada didn't have to say that. He was thanking us for coming, where we should be thanking him for bringing us here and making facility and for everything. Then Srila Prabhupada said in the lecture, but you will be actually benefited if you take lessons from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. Now, I understood from that Prabhupada wanted us to not waste our time in Mayapur and be frivolous, and to really be serious about hearing and chanting there. But at the same time, I wondered, how am I going to take lessons from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami? And then later, maybe, I can't remember, but quite some time later, I realized that hearing from Srila Prabhupada speak on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his instructions to Sanatana Goswami, that is the way that we learn from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. During the festival in Vrindavan in 76, there was a big sacrifice. Big means many devotees received initiation. I was sitting there for Brahminical initiation, or what we call second initiation. So the whole yagi was going on. It was April, and it was hot. Akshayananda Swami was doing the sacrifice. He was sitting in the sun, pouring the ghee, and he was sitting so close. It was so hot. It seems to me I mostly remember the heat, but one other thing struck me. The whole thing was going on, swaha, 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 and Prabhupada leans into the microphone and said, stop. You don't usually stop in the middle of a sacrifice, right? The traditional brahmanas wouldn't dream of doing such a thing. So Prabhupada indicated to the back of the area in which we were all sitting, the courtyard of Krishna Balaram temple. And Prabhupada indicated there was one young woman with a child on her lap. The child was maybe not more than 1.5 or 2 years old. Prabhupada said, this child has his hand in his mouth. He's contaminating the whole sacrifice. Take him out, wash his hand, and teach him not to put his hand in his mouth. Continue. Swaha, swaha. Prabhupada was concerned. Now, sometimes we think that these rituals, well, they're just some rituals. You just do them somehow or other. But Prabhupada was concerned that there's It's ritual contamination. It's a ritual, and there's ritual contamination. The sacrifice, the offering to Vishnu will be impeded. Krishna is not pleased if we don't follow the rules and regulations properly. The sacrifice has certain rules and regulations. We should follow that. And you may think, well, it's just a young child, but young child or whoever it is contaminating. Prabhupada said, train the child. Don't put your hand in your mouth. In Vrindavan, I sat in the sacrifice for my Brahminical initiation, and quite a lot of devotees took Brahminical initiation. So Prabhupada was just saying a few every day. He wanted to give everyone individually. That was again his great mercy. He's writing books, he's managing a whole big movement, but he wanted each individual disciple to personally give them the Gayatri mantra, which is very considerate of him. And for, like myself, it's like the only time I had to be personally with Prabhupada. And then I blew it. Such a fool. So, let me see, yeah, so we're waiting day after, I think it was about 5 days later. I was waiting outside, we'd wait outside Prabhupada's room all morning, and then we get to, someone would go in ahead, and I think you're going to be the next one, no, and then the next one, no, and just at, maybe about the 5th day later, then Pushta Krishna Maharaj, he said, no more today. And he must have seen how disappointed I looked. He said, okay, come in, one last one. He told me, take off these, I had these Radha Kunda beads on, these black earth beads. He said, take them off, Prabhupada doesn't like them. So I went in and offered my obeisances to Prabhupada. And previous to this, for some day, a good friend of mine, we used to go on book distribution together in England, Satyavak Prabhu. He had told me he'd heard something from Hari Bhakti Vilas about how you have to, all these details about how you chant the Gayatri Mantra, you have to do it at a certain fixed time. It's actually within the Sandhya, in the morning, noon and evening. It's not just any time, and you have to stand facing this way and sit facing this way and this and that. And I thought this was all, it was far out, I thought I'd ask Prabhupada about that and maybe show off my great knowledge to Prabhupada or something, some thought like that. So then Prabhupada, he had me sit down and raise your arm, and everything I was just doing all wrong, which typically happens when you think you're going to show yourself how great you are to your spiritual master. So everything I was doing wrong, and put my arm up and it was in the wrong way, and Prabhupada eventually got the thread on, and then Prabhupada gave me the sheet and he had me repeat word after word, and I thought I was great at pronouncing Sanskrit. Prabhupada was correcting me 2-3 times on every word, and then after a short time he just gave up because he probably thought I'm completely useless at pronouncing the Sanskrit. So he went through it all and told me you chant it morning, noon and evening, and then he said, do you have any questions? So yeah, I got my question. So Prabhupada, is there any exact time that we should chant? Prabhupada said, morning, noon and evening. He just sounded surprised because he just told me. And then again I asked, I said, well Prabhupada, it's like any really fixed, specific, I can't, I'm just paraphrasing now what I said. Because I was wanting Prabhupada to tell me, yes, actually you should chant it like, 24 minutes before the sunrise and 24 minutes. And I was going to ask about putting your thumb in this direction and thumb in that direction and ask all these technical questions. Prabhupada just looked at me and said, he said, already told me twice now, morning, noon, and evening. And I realized, oh, what a fool I am. I just offered obeisances and left, and that was it.
Hare Krishna. So it was blissful to hear from Maharaj about the wonderful pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. So now we'll go over a brief introduction of Maharaj, Actually, Maharaj doesn't need any introduction. This is well known to all of us. So, but still, for our purification, we like to glorify Maharaj. So, actually, Maharaj is very famous, as all of us know. So, Maharaj is quite famous for his books that he's written. He's written many books. Like he's famous for the Ramayana which he has wrote. Maharaj is also well known for the book Brahmacharya in Krishna Consciousness, Bhakti Siddhant Vaibhav, and uh, uh, on pilgrimage in Holy India, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the story of Rasikanand. So in this way, Maharaj is already very famous, but still short introduction of Maharaj. Uh, Maharaj, Maharaj's early life. Maharaj appeared in England in 1957, and at the time of his initiation, Srila Prabhupada gave him the name Ilapati Das. So Maharaj came to Krishna consciousness in 1975 in London, and he received the initiation that very year itself. And uh, after getting initiated, he started preaching, and in his early preaching, we see that he traveled extensively in West Bengal during 1977 to 87, and he was a rigorous or a very well known for distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Even these days, even till today, Maharaj's disciples are very much known for distributing books. We know that His Grace Mahotsav is the topmost individual book distributed is Maharaj's disciple. And from 1979 to 1987, helped Maharaj helped to increase the uh, outreach of ISKCON in Bangladesh, Myanmar, Malaysia, and Thailand. And in 1989, Maharaj took sannyas initiation from His Holiness Jayapataga Swami Maharaj and got the name His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami. And Maharaj has preached and is still preaching in English, Hindi, and Bengali in Indian countries and Western countries also. And services and contribution of Maharaj has no limits. But here in a limited format, we are presenting preaching and early preaching, as we already discussed, from 1977 to 79, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in West Bengal especially, and Bangladesh also. And spiritual leadership, Maharaj accepted the sannyas order in 1989 and has committed himself to preach all over the world. Maharaj is a prolific author. He has published numerous books. So uh, his books have been translated into many languages and have more than 1.5 million copies have been printed. Bhakti Vikas Trust has been established to publish and promote the teachings of Maharaj on Vedic culture and faith. Maharaj is also known for establishing Varnashram Dharma. Maharaj has founded many projects like Nandagram, New Nandagram in Gujarat, so where devotees just live in kacha houses with no electricity. They have some dedicated grihasthas over there. Education, community development. Uh, Maharaj focuses on Gurukul and rural projects so that the devotees develop the Vedic and rural way of living life, so with a simple living and high thinking. And Maharaj offers training and research support to through the trust, education institutions, and research in Vedic philosophy and Bhakti traditions. And actually, on remembering Srila Prabhupada, this is just brief information. Actually, Raj has also written a book, uh, My Memories of Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj didn't meet Srila Prabhupada for a long time. Only personal time when Maharaj met Srila Prabhupada was by when he got Brahmana initiation. Otherwise, he only had darshans of Srila Prabhupada. But just on basis of on the basis of following instructions, Maharaj has so deep realizations that he has written one book, which is my memories of Srila Prabhupada. And here, just a short info that I would like to read. Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his Vyasasana. That was not exactly a Vyasasana, but it was a special raised seat. To Srila Prabhupada's right and little in front of him was a senior devotee who had his japa beads around his neck and he was chanting on them. When Srila Prabhupada noticed that, asked him, "Where is your bead bag?" This devotee said, "It's being washed." Srila Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada turned to Harikesh Maharaj and asked, "Some bead bags have been given." Harikesh said, "Yes, Prabhupada." Prabhupada said, "Bring one and give it to him." Harikesh brought the bead bag, and then Prabhupada told the devotee who had been chanting, "Always keep your beads in a bead bag." He said, "You should have two bead bags. When one is being washed, use the other one." So that's a small instruction, but it's important. In the early days of movement, we hear the devotees would keep the beads around their necks. So uh, I would like to share one more uh, PPT uh, that I have made on the basis of the book that Maharaj has written, and it will just take a couple of time to share that. Yes. So Maharaj is giving a proposal that in ISKCON, although we are practicing Krishna consciousness, and we are trying so many things, but these days we see that there are so many difficulties, devotees have so many problems. So Maharaj makes a proposal that can solve all our problems. Maharaj writes, "Many members of our movement are expressing dissatisfaction and not without cause. Therefore, we submit a proposal for solving all problems within our society." So these are very important proposals because these can solve all our problems. It is based on the understanding that pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress and is the beginning of all auspiciousness. So in Nectar of Devotion, this thing is known as Shubhada. Kleshagni Bhakti destroys our kleshas and gives Shubhada. It is a beginning of all auspiciousness. So for getting auspiciousness, what a devotee should do? Every devotee should read Srila Prabhupada's book 1 to 2 hours daily. Second, chant and dance together in kirtan. Third, chant the holy names very carefully and with great attention. Second thing, Maharaj's entire lecture that we heard was centered around Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj is not only Prabhupada conscious, he can give Prabhupada consciousness to everyone. So he is the way. It is not very difficult to be Prabhupada conscious and to have his association. There is no need to make any special arrangement or strain our brains about it. We just have to throw ourselves into the fire of preaching. So this does not mean merely giving a casual lecture here and there, but immersing ourselves day and night in thoughts of how to push on Prabhupada's mission within our given capacity. We have to absorb ourselves in preaching activities. When we speak to someone about Krishna or try to induce him to take a book, we should pray. Please, Srila Prabhupada, help me to convince these people. When asked questions or challenged, we should try to remember how Prabhupada replied to such queries. When tempted by Maya, we should say no, because we know it would be displeasing to Srila Prabhupada and a hindrance to our full absorption in his service. So I'll read the only bold characters. Another aspect of being Prabhupada conscious is to offer all our successes back to him. We are made of his mercy and have no separate abilities of our own. All guidance, inspiration, and blessings come from him. It's like we can see that Yogita Vichare Kuch nahi pai tumar karuna sar. So the same Mood Maharaj is expressing. Maharaj is saying that Prabhupada knows everything. So here is the thing. that I would like to read. Prabhupada knows Krishna uh, and therefore knows everything. If anyone thinks that Srila Prabhupada ever made any fundamental mistake, then that person has committed the gravest mistake. Maharaj is saying here that Prabhupada knows Krishna, Krishna knows everything, so Prabhupada knows everything. And while reading the books, there are some demons that attack the minds, means that help us not to understand that whatever Srila Prabhupada is saying is correct or not. So how Maharaj solves all these problems is that Maharaj says that, so then I ask myself, do you believe Prabhupada and the Acharyas or the demons who are envious of God? And that is the end of doubt. Srila Prabhupada is correct. Because sometimes in book, uh, Srila Prabhupada's books, there are some points that appear as that we cannot digest. Just like Srila Prabhupada says that the moon is farther away than the sun. It is heavenly planet with rivers of nectar. Srila Prabhupada also writes, pigeons can be trained to carry one into outer space. He also writes, giant eagles fly from one planet to another, and while flying, they lay eggs. So these are very difficult things that Srila Prabhupada says, but Maharaj says that actually we have to always accept someone or the other. So it depends on us that we accept Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, or we accept some uh, people who are envious of God. So with this, I would like to conclude the session. So thank you all for giving your association, and it was wonderful to discuss about Srila Prabhupada's warrior, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj, who has taken the instructions of Srila Prabhupada by his heart and soul, and till day he is continuing his service by inspiring his disciples, followers to commit themselves to the movement. So we beg for his mercy, and we also beg for the mercy of His Holiness Bhakti Prema Swami Maharaj, who has kindly made this platform so that we can remember these great acharyas. So thank you all very much. His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj ki jai. His Holiness Bhakti Prema Swami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.